All right. My name is Tamara Horn, she, her pronouns, and I'm an organizer in West Michigan for Sierra Club Michigan chapter, and I live in Muskegon County. I'd like to invite all of you to introduce yourself in the chat, and if you want to share what county or region you live in, you can do that. And then also, if you would like, you can respond in the chat and use a thumbs up or a thumbs down emoji. Have you ever attended your municipality's planning commission meeting? Some of you might be familiar with your board, council, or commission meeting, but the planning commission is a separate appointed body that advises on local planning and development policy. This is great, seeing lots of folks here. Some that have attended once. Welcome, Sarah and Natalie. Great. First time listening. So, so you know what to expect. The webinar tonight's going to take 1 hour. I'm going to present, but I'm also going to leave time at the end for questions. And my colleagues, Marta and Nora, are also on hand here. So there will be a Q&A link in the chat that you can be submitting questions throughout that as they come to you. And then at the end, we'll come back to those questions and address them. All right, next. Next slide, Nora. Okay, thanks. So Sierra Club Michigan chapter is holding this webinar tonight because communities are now considering data center ordinances. The public has the right to participate in this process, and multiple Sierra Club members across the state have asked us for help. So tonight I'm going to cover two topics and how they specifically relate to data center development. A high-level overview of how municipalities plan for land use and how you can stay informed and engaged in giving your input to local officials. We'll be focusing on Michigan residents, how you can support your local land use policies during the webinar. But I want to mention that Sierra Club Michigan also supports a statewide temporary moratorium on data center development until we have stronger environmental safeguards and transparency are in place. I'm not going to talk further about that temporary moratorium during this webinar, but we're going to put a link in the chat if you haven't already sent a letter to your state legislators asking for the temporary moratorium. So as we're getting started here, I want to make note that data centers and cryptocurrency mining are similar industries. They both are essentially a large warehouse or a set of warehouses that contain computer processors. The computer processors use a lot of energy and they also typically use water for cooling. Because both cryptocurrency and data centers are similar, it's best if municipalities include the cryptocurrency mining whenever they're considering a data center development or ordinance. I suspect many of you here, because you have already become aware of some or all of the potential impacts of data centers and cryptocurrency mining. So I won't spend a ton of time explaining those impacts, but it's worth listing them here to ensure we're all aware. And so you can confirm whether your municipality's zoning and ordinances address these specific impacts. So first on the list is noise that comes from fans, cooling systems, generators, substations, transformers, and testing. Air pollution comes from diesel and natural gas generators that can emit nitrogen oxides, particulate matter, carbon monoxide, volatile organic compounds, formaldehyde, and other pollutants. There can also be impacts to water and wastewater. Cooling systems may require major water withdrawals and create wastewater or treatment burdens. Your municipality should also consider power infrastructure impacts because large load facilities may require substations, transmission line upgrades, batteries, gas infrastructure, and on-site generation. And lastly, emergency response should think about fuel, batteries, fire suppression systems, large buildings, and grid equipment that may require specialized response capacity. Next slide. So now let's talk about how municipalities plan for land use. Master plans are large documents that include land use and infrastructure planning recommendations for physical development, such as street plans, public transportation, and public buildings. Developing or updating municipal master plan is a months-long process and can take up to 20 years in the future, and can look 20 years into the future. Plans are often reviewed annually, but at a minimum, they have to be reviewed every 5 years for adoption or readoption. Municipal staff and officials often refer to the master plan when they're making land use decisions because it guides what types of development is needed in each of our unique communities. This can include housing and industry as well as agriculture. It also includes public green spaces and waterways that need to be stewarded, or if more recreation areas are needed. Sewers and sanitary systems are also included. And master planning, so that means that master planning also includes floods and pollution prevention. Secondly, municipalities plan for land use is through zoning and ordinances. For a local unit of government that has adopted a zoning ordinance, your municipality's master plan will also include zoning districts. These districts control the height, area, location, and the use of buildings and premises. A zoning plan also explains how the land use categories on a future land use map relate to districts on the zoning map. So in short, the zoning plan is a snapshot of where your city or village or township is now and the recommendations of how it should change in the years to come. Zoning is a way to think about systemically questions like, do we need more houses or apartments? Are there gaps in public services? Do we need more community business district to be developed? Or do we have enough jobs in industry? Is our sewer system working well and our streets in good repair? Next slide. So I'm curious if any of you have ever skimmed or looked through your municipality's master plan. If you have, if you can just put in the chat if you've ever seen your city or town's master plan. And if you haven't seen a master plan, it's not the type of document someone would sit down and read straight through. It's like pretty dense reading. As an example, I live in a small city and the master plan is 184 pages long, but it's the first place I go when I wonder how my city might approach a new development or redevelopment, like data centers and crypto mining. So I'm just checking. Some of you have looked at master plans, so that's good. Oh, I see one. Yeah, it's so long. They are so long. All right, some of you haven't, which is not surprising. Like I didn't look at my city's master plan until like 3 years ago. Oh, some of you are your towns are in the process of approving them right now. So if you haven't already guessed, the first action I'm going to suggest tonight is that you look at your municipality's website. So right now, write yourself a note to look at your city or town's master plan after this webinar. The master plan might be under documents and links section, or it might be under planning and zoning. And if there's a search bar, you can type in master plan to try to get that to come up. And if you still can't find it, then you should call or contact your municipal clerk for help. If you don't know who your municipal clerk is, You can find the contact information on the website usually. Next slide. Once you're looking at your municipality's master plan, you're going to search within it. So you're not going to read the entire document. I'm going to suggest that you just skip right to the section that you're interested and search for future land use map. And if it isn't in the master plan, you could also look for zoning map. A future land use map shows the categories of land use by color coding them on the map, and data centers are typically built in the industrial zone. So you're going to look on the color coding for an industrial zone. Keep in mind that you might be looking at a future land use map like we are here, and it's not necessarily how everything is zoned currently. But looking at the map is going to give you a visual representation of what the community is planning for and their intentions of how land will be used in coming years. So in this example on the screen, this is a future land use map, and the planned industrial area is the light purple block in the lower right. And then there's also a smaller area on the middle left. So I know from going to these areas in real life that some of these sites have already had industry built on them, and others are open space that aren't developed yet. So you can do the same in your community to get some idea of what industrial land is available and what other things surround it, what's nearby. Next slide. So some of you might be wondering why I'm suggesting you research master plans and read what zoning practices your municipality has in place. And it's because the land use planning system is overseen by democratic bodies and processes. This means all the folks on your planning commission are your neighbors, or maybe you are one of these public servants. Our municipalities are run by staff, elected officials, and community members appointed to committees like the Planning Commission. These bodies are democratic, which means the community can and should be engaging in the decision-making process. So we're invited to those meetings and we're all welcome to go. So it can feel really technical at times, but understanding the decision-making system is key for all of us to engage effectively. The meetings and decisions, as I mentioned, are open to the public, and they are held that way for transparency. This is so the larger community can also provide input. Informing yourself on the current landscape means you can provide a high impact public comment during meetings where important land use decisions are being made. If you want to be a part of self-governing and decision-making processes, you've got to be in the room where it happens. Next slide. So once you get an idea of where the industrial zones are in your community, next you should get informed about what zoning and ordinances exist that might apply to data centers and cryptocurrency mining. You can search, go back to your municipality's website again and search to see if ordinances are available to view. They may not all websites have them. So if they aren't posted on the website, or if it's really tough to navigate and find them, you can contact your zoning administrator. I recommend that if you have questions for your zoning administrator, just approach them with curiosity. Like, you are a community member and they're there to help you understand the process too. And so just start a conversation and ask if your municipality has an ordinance that covers data centers and cryptocurrency mining facilities or anything related to that. Next slide. So once you ask the zoning administrator if guidelines exist, you're likely to get 3 answers. One of them is maybe that your planning commission has already discussed and decided the current master plan and zoning provides adequate guidance for now. As an example, some municipalities might be beginning their master planning process again soon, or some of you in the chat mentioned earlier, they're doing it right now. And so it's a perfect time to update them when they're done with that master planning process and update their ordinances and guidelines for industrial zones at that time. Or secondly, the zoning administrator may explain that your municipality is in the process of drafting a specific ordinance. If that's the case, you can ask for a copy of the ordinance and you should read it and then decide if there are guardrails missing or concerns that you want to notify the Planning Commission and zoning administrator about. And you could do that through public comment at a meeting or in writing. And then the third answer you might hear is that because data centers and cryptocurrency mining have ramped up quickly in the past year, that you shouldn't be surprised if there is no plan yet or if it's minimal. In that case, the Planning Commission might draft an ordinance soon. If your municipality will be updating their ordinances, you should ask a follow-up question of, will the Planning Commission and elected officials implement a time-limited moratorium on project proposals until an ordinance is adopted? So earlier I mentioned that Sierra Club supports a temporary moratorium statewide. This declaring one in your local municipality for a time-bound period is also, it's similar, but you can do it just for within your municipality limits. And passing this moratorium doesn't necessarily mean a project is proposed in your community. Municipalities use these time-limited moratoriums to allow themselves planning commission adequate time to research, draft, review, discuss, get the public involved, and hold a public hearing for community members' feedback. During that time, a developer cannot submit a project or a special use permit. Next slide. So a strong ordinance can provide a more long-lasting safeguard than temporary moratoriums. Written ordinances would require developers to prove before approval that a proposed facility can operate responsibly without unacceptable noise, air pollution, water, wastewater, emergency response, or quality of life impacts. Why can't a municipality ban a data center? That's sometimes referred to as zoning out a business. If a municipality bans a specific industry, it could lead to an expensive action against your town, city, or village. Next slide. So if your municipality has already declared a temporary moratorium and is working on drafting a data center and crypto mining ordinance, there will be planning commission meetings where you can provide input during public comment. The drafting phase of the ordinance is a critical time for all of your input, and I recommend going in person and making your requests during public comment. But you can also contact your zoning administrator and provide written input. As a resident, you should ask for your municipality's ordinance to evaluate and address your community's local needs. So generally speaking, there should be a data center specific zoning ordinance and not reliance on general industrial language in your master plan. And it should be conditional use or special exception review with objective standards. And if you're in a municipality that already has a potential project submitted, there may be that you're already at the stage of reviewing a permit application. In that instance, you should ask for the full application, master plan, traffic study, noise study, air emissions materials, cooling system narrative, sealed water balance, water and sewer letters, emergency response plan, and generator information. And don't worry, we have a link to all this if you aren't going to remember it. And then the Planning Commission should also look at the location where the data center or crypto mining facility is proposed. And you should identify nearby homes, schools, daycare centers, nursing homes, parks, hospitals, wells, streams, floodplains, and emergency service constraints. Communities across Michigan are at various levels of planning and reviewing these policies. Since we can't cover every situation tonight, we're going to put a link in the chat to a toolkit. It includes some of the guidance that I just mentioned, and then it also has guidance for public meetings and sample municipal ordinances. So the example ordinances that are in the toolkit are intended to illustrate the range of approaches that Michigan communities have taken to address data center development. They're not intended to serve as a model, like copy and apply this one to your municipality, nor does that including them in our toolkit imply that we're endorsing that one. It's just to give you an idea of things to consider as you're looking through yours. All right, next slide. So I wanted to take some time here to acknowledge that so far I've been talking about the dominant culture's view on land use. Present day land use decisions are deeply rooted in concepts of privatization and who owns or controls land. And that's not the viewpoint of all cultures today. Some cultures consider humans as an interconnected component of the land and other wildlife and natural features as kin who all respect the needs of one another. In those instances, no human owns land. In other cultures, there might be privately owned land in other areas that are commons, or they can also be called civic property. And in some areas, the commons are still used today. So as an example, I lived in Switzerland for 3 months, and the valley where I lived had small farms with cows. Every year in June, some of the farmers joined in Aufzug, where the community all walk up the mountain together with the cows, and you walk single file until you reach the plateau together. And then the cows graze there on the plateau all summer until they're brought back to their farms at the end of the season during another community festival that lots of people turn out for. So I don't know if the sound is working, but maybe we can play the video. It's okay if the sound doesn't work. So this video just shows like the process of the cows going up the mountainside and how it is a community activity. And then as you get up there at the top, there's like a waterfall and everyone gathers to welcome the cows. And they all wear big bells around their neck if they are their prize cow. So this is an example, and it's not necessarily a land use that every community is going to use, but I just wanted to mention a specific way that one community decided together to share land rather than to privatize it and divide it for individual use. Next slide. So an example of shifting land use policy in the United States is when the colony in Boston designated an area as commons. In the 1630s, the Boston Common was a 44-acre community cow pasture, which then became overgrazed. So then the colonists put limitations on the number of livestock. Over time, centrally located commons like Boston's became gathering areas for events and festivals. Boston Common was officially turned into a park in the 1830s. I want to note that Black, Indigenous, and people of color were excluded from the commons. So I've glossed over 200 years of history of how the Boston Common was used by white colonists, but that is exactly why I want to bring up the history of commons, because I want everyone joining tonight to understand that land use in the US is always evolving because the dominant culture in the US is a democracy. Planning commissions, master plans, municipal boards, and councils are the method our communities use to make decisions. So we should view these democratic bodies as systems that can be shifted. All residents, and that means all of you here tonight, play a critical role in shifting these systems to be more just and equitable. Engaging in zoning and land use decisions in our communities holds our local officials accountable to a transparent process, and it assures policies are serving our community needs. Be aware shifts can take time and every community is different. It may take you showing up to multiple meetings and following up with municipal staff and elected officials. In the community I live in, a group wanted to start a community garden. And this is shown in the picture here that where it's at recently. And this was going to be next to the city hall. The first year that the group had to prove the concept by building and growing vegetables and herbs in raised beds on abandoned tennis courts. This year, the group came prepared to the city with a project plan, budget, request for more land, removing the tennis courts, installing water spigots, creating an in-ground garden with community gathering area, and an exception to use the land for 3 years instead of 1. And that took a lot of effort and community donations, and it won't be even 100% complete this year. So I use this example to demonstrate how it was a years-long process to shift mindsets and to get full support from the elected officials that they want a community garden, not an abandoned tennis court. So all of this to say that I want to encourage all of you to stick with it and be persistent. And you should also know that with this example, that if you gather your friends and neighbors to join you and take collective action, then you're more likely to have success in a planning commission taking action and implementing strong environmental guardrails for data centers and cryptocurrency mining than if you attempt it alone. It's much tougher to get the change to happen that you're looking for. Next slide. So I know this was a lot of material in a short time, so thank you for joining us tonight. Before we get to questions, we have a QR code for a survey on here. I think we also might put the link in the chat. But what we need, we want you to let us know what you need. And so take a moment now and snap the QR code or use the link. And the survey is going to have questions like what region you live in and what stage your community is in drafting the ordinance. And so your feedback on the survey is critical to letting us know if we feel prepared statewide or what areas of Michigan may have gaps. And I'm also going to mention, if Marta hasn't done it already, that Marta Johnson is going to put a link to a form that if you're at this stage and interested in signing up for it, we are going to do data center organizing chats every 2 weeks. So you can look for that link in the chat too. I'll give you a second to do the survey here.
We have a couple questions here tomorrow, once you want to field those.
Sure, yeah. You can click to the next slide, and then that one will also have the a different QR code if you still have a question and didn't get a chance to submit it. Go for it. Let me know what questions we have.
The first one is U of M focused, and I'm not sure if you have something ready or if this is something that we can follow up with folks about, but it says the person shared, I live in Ypsilanti near the proposed U of M Ann Arbor data center. The university is apparently not beholden to the township's zoning laws per the Board of Trustees. Ypsi Township is officially opposed to the data center, but says they cannot stop the university. Do you have any advice?
Ooh, I don't know a lot about, I'm guessing that that's because the university has their own governing rules. So I don't have a lot of experience with that situation, so I don't have suggestions, but I also invite Nora and Marta if you know more about that situation.
What I know about, sorry, I can come off camera. Is there are many active organizing efforts on the ground. There have been recall efforts. There have been many efforts to be able to beat back against some of these moves. I don't have the latest and greatest. Oh, you can't hear me. Sorry.
I think maybe it's just a little quieter than I am. Can't hear you. That before I could hear you.
All right. Does this help at all?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Sorry about that. My mic likes to go in and out. Technology is just a wonderful thing. What I would say is there are a lot of active efforts. I know there were some efforts for recalling certain people, as well as other organizing efforts to push back against. I don't have the latest and greatest, but I would be happy to connect with some of the organizers. I know Andrea Pierce has been active in that. I believe Sarah, who's also here, has been active on that. So I can follow up with a few folks and come up with a response on, where organizing is at right now, and then opportunities for folks to link with local organizers and or support efforts on the ground there.
Thank you.
Nora, I don't know if you have something you'd like to share too.
Yeah, my internet is slow and I am doing all of the things on the back end that you're seeing on your screen. So I'm gonna stay off camera to avoid lags. But um Tamara is right that with the U of M one, it's not a like city zoning board situation. It is the U of M Board of Regents gets to make that decision. So you would want to organize around those meetings. And that's going to be like a different process, a different like governing body entirely than Ann Arbor. So I would check, like you can check the U of M Board of Regents
Mhm.
calendar or meeting schedules. If they have agendas, you can see if the data center is going to be on the agenda or if they have even just like uh, time for the public to speak at any of their meetings. You can go and bring it up there.
Thanks. Any other questions that came through on the form?
Oh, let me get to the next one. If the local government wants to allow some data centers, what kinds of restrictions should be included? Has any muni specifically or specified lowered allowed noise levels for facilities that operate 24 hours a day? Have any munis implemented, munis being municipalities, implemented restrictions on infrasound, noise at a low frequency that can not be heard by the human ear?
I would suggest like that you take a look at that toolkit that we have a link to, and some of the sample ordinances that are in there, because some of the ordinances are very detailed and they talk about what noise levels are allowed and what the measurements are going to be and how often they're going to be taken, when they'll do measurements, how far away will it be from like the generators, for example, if they're what is making the noise. So check some of those out to see ideas for what others are doing. And I think that that will at least give you a starting point to discuss with other community members of what you do want to consider and test for. And like, how does that get paid for? Also, like maybe you need to include in there that that is something that the data center developer is paying for and doing regularly.
There are sample, just to some of the questions in the chat I'm seeing here. I just want to say in the toolkit, but then linked in the toolkit are sample ordinances that speak to those recommendations. There are existing ordinances, especially I know in Arizona on noise, that we can learn from and improve upon. But th those are linked in there, and not something I think we can get into depth right now about. Um, I also want to lift up that Sierra Club as an organization and many of our partners have supported moratoriums, which are, pauses on developments, which um, give different areas the ability to prepare for the kinds of protections and safeguards that we need, and as well as our state legislature, so that can work at both the state legislature, but also the local zoning level as well. To get to the next question, can the Planning Commission set a limit on the volume of water used in a month for each project? What about requiring proof that electricity rates will not be increased by the proposed facility?
Yeah, so for the water, yeah, I would say this would potentially be, you're looking at what type of system do they have? Is it a closed loop where they bring in a bunch and then run it closed in a system for a while? And then you're looking at that they need to draw, where are they drawing the water from? Is it coming from your aquifer? Are you having it come from your municipal sewer and water system? And then also what happens to that water afterward? Because when they are in a closed loop system, they have to put chemicals in there, for example, to stop the scale from developing inside the pipes. So you need to also have plans in there for how the water is disposed of as wastewater, and where does it go. So I would definitely talk among your community members about where the water should draw from, and also if it is not just continuously drawing and using it. And communities have had issues where if it draws directly from your aquifer, then it drains it faster than it could ever replenish. So those are things you want to look at for the water. And then the second part was large energy loads, I think. And those, in part, that will mean engaging as a member of the public, probably through your local utility. So the main utilities, like you probably have either a co-op or DTE as your electric provider, or Consumers Energy. And the large loads of energy, and if they will cause rate increases, are going to come out with policy making in that arena. So this might mean that you have ordinance policy, but also you might need to engage with your utility to make sure that we're making safeguards for ratepayers so that our rates are not increasing, and that we ratepayers are not paying for the data centers extra draw and extra energy. What would you add to that, Marta?
I would add that this underscores the need for strong regulation to move forward. And we know that there's been a start at this with the state Senate regulation package introduced by Senator Bayer, Hertel, McMorrow, and others. So there is an opportunity for us to engage in, creating a floor. I think this is again why we think local moratoriums while figuring out where the preferred regulations are for each community is really such a crucial interim piece. We have been pushing for at the state level, And we'll continue to do that while we also push for stronger safeguards. At the local level, this is why pushing for a moratorium while doing the assessments on where your zoning is at locally in relationship to the two proposed data centers, either currently proposed or possibly in the future. And they just play such an important role to give communities some breathing room to be able to assess where they're at. And let's see, I'm an expert witness in those cases. Um,
I think,
oh yes, we are intervening on the um on the cases as well related to data centers. Sorry, go ahead.
yeah, I was just going to say thanks to John for pointing out in the chat that to make it even more clear that when I say that this may also require engaging with your local utility provider, that is done through usually a process and a governing body called the Michigan Public Service Commission. They also will have public hearings and things where we can comment. And Sierra Club and other organizations, our partners, as those come up, I'm sure that we will be notifying residents when you can engage in that process. All right, what else?
I don't see any additional submitted questions. I can see really quick in the chat if there's anything else. I just want to lift up again that we are going to be having that I'll be hosting some bi-weekly, so every other week, organizing calls just specifically around data centers. In the Google Form sign up link, it also is collecting information on topics, either organizing, and how to organize and deepen organizing skills, or specific topics on data centers that people want us to cover in more depth, and we can pull in, either national, folks or folks from other states that can provide expertise, or as well as, what we can collectively cover within our own team or our partners across Michigan. So please do, sign up if you're interested in ongoing, shared learning together, as well as connecting and learning from each other on what's working and getting new ideas on how we can all improve our organizing to be able to meet this moment with our new Goliath that we're having to take on both at the local level and the state level. I don't see, just giving another minute. Yeah, it is a huge setback for climate change. How to draw attention to this at the community level. Um, do you see that, Tamara, from Larry?
Yeah, Larry has brought up in the chat that the major concern that data centers would be a huge setback in dealing with climate change. And I would agree with that and say that because data centers use so much energy, that it does put our statewide Michigan Healthy Climate Plan at risk. So moving forward in a very thoughtful way to make sure that we can still, as a state, achieve our clean energy goals that are written in that plan for the climate plan for the state. We have to be diligent about addressing those so that we can still meet our goals as a state on climate change and our local communities. Some of you may be part of local community action groups that also have goals to meet energy, and we should be including all of the industrial and everybody along with our households. So it's a good point to bring up.
And just wanted to flag, we're going to be releasing it later in the week, but we'll be doing this summer a postcard party push along with partners across the state to urge legislators to take action on this and take it seriously. So that would be an action that can help add pressure for moving solutions forward, whether it's moratorium at the state level or strong, robust regulations, and where you can include, focus on climate change in how you're talking about it with neighbors and or legislators and decision makers too. So that's another opportunity to help raise and connect issues that people care about. And not there are some people that might care more about other aspects of the issues too, because this is such a ranging issue that is touching a lot of different, political viewpoints as well as demographics. So it's one of these like unique opportunities to offer many points where we can agree together on the importance of taking action as well, just to flag that.
All right. Any other questions that you're seeing in the form, Nora or Marta?
Nothing else. Oh yeah, something here on the tax breaks for data centers. 90% energy from renewable sources within 6 years. One of the interesting things to note, and I don't know if you want to touch on this more, is that we actually haven't seen anybody apply for those tax breaks that were passed in 2024, which actually I think were a big part of attracting all of these. And so it's probably just that they're going to apply for their local tax breaks first, like we're seeing in with the Saline data center, and then go for, layering on with the statewide tax breaks once, operations are closer to coming online. But it's something that's been an interesting thing to see, that there isn't a rush for the tax breaks necessarily. Really, they're seeing that first battle as getting it approved and breaking ground. So that's why the local organizing on zoning and pushing forward resolution or local policies on moratoriums is so critical to help give that breathing room and delay as much as possible while pushing forward, stronger protections. Yeah, the giant tax break, it's really wild, from really well resourced, some of the richest companies on the planet. Sorry, I don't mean to take over here, Tamara.
No, that's all right. Because those are things that we didn't discuss, that I didn't bring up. So, all right. Well, if there are no other questions, just make note that like you can email me if you do have questions. We'll also be sending out an email to all of you that registered afterward with some links, and some of them that were included in this, and a recording of tonight's. So if you want to go back to a certain section and re-listen to it, you can do that. And anything else before we close out?
Oh, the survey, please do take the survey and sign up for organizing calls if you want to, go further and deeper on things and to connect with other organizers. Thanks for including me, Tamara.
Absolutely. Yeah, thank you, everyone, for being here. And Marta and Nora, thank you for helping. I'm not very good at doing all the things at once, so this is great.